Alright, so today I find myself in this beautiful location in the hills of Piemonte region of Italy, the region where I'm from. And so I take this opportunity, as I'm here photographing this beautiful landscape, I take this opportunity to go through some of the questions I receive on my photography tips for beginners playlist here below. Some of you have asked what's the difference between APS-C sensor and full frame sensor. So do you really need to upgrade to a full frame sensor? Some other have asked, do I need better lenses so should I use full frame lenses on my APS-C crop sensor camera? Image quality, resolution, and a few things that I hope you'll find it useful and interesting to know. Let's get on to it.
So for the sake of this experiment, I got here two cameras. One is a Canon 70D APS-C sensor, so-called crop sensor, and this one is a 6D full frame sensor. So this one is the more professional level sensor camera. I think the APS-C is a pretty good sensor size, and it's more than enough, and with a good selection of lenses to choose from. So I'm going to show you the difference between one sensor to the other. This one is the APS-C sensor, so-called crop sensor, and this other one is the full frame sensor. And when you look at them side by side, although they both have 20 megapixels, you can see the one on the right is 1.6 times bigger. The lenses that I made for a full frame sensor camera can eventually be mounted on the APS-C sensor camera, but then you have to consider that you incur into the crop factor, so you need to multiply the focal length by 1.6, which is the Canon's crop factor.
So whether you are a beginner or an amateur photographer, it's good to keep photography as an emotional sort of thing. You enjoy going out, capturing whatever that's caught your eyes and you've seen, and just leave it the technical aspects, just for the moment for the purchase. Don't keep shopping around and being misled by all these best deals, commercials, and new cameras coming out and sort of things. Whenever you outgrow out of your camera, then you eventually think about upgrading. So, but I will start with an APS-C sensor. It would be plenty. You could even go as low as a Micro Four Thirds, which is the next level down. So it's another crop of the frame. So the frame is got a crop factor of 2, and because otherwise then you just end up spending lots of money. If you upgrade to a full frame camera, then all the glasses that you put in front, all the lenses, will be up to that standard. Very heavy, very big, and very expensive. This is something that you really have to consider. Whether for the APS-C sensor, whether you are on Canon, Nikon, or one of the most popular brands, there are a lot more lenses to choose from, and you can also eventually adapt the full frame size sensors glasses, but then you have the crop factor to take in consideration. So when they say you need to invest and spend more in lens, yes and no, because if you buy the full frame sensor lenses and you put them on a crop sensor camera, and then you're going to have a crop factor straight away. If you go and crop the image even more of that, then you end up with a photo with 8 megapixels. You go really low in pixel and in resolution and in quality. So all of this expense, it doesn't bring any better photography. So you have to really consider, just try with the APS-C, try to get the lenses, the best lenses you can find, and I would go with that one as a recommendation.
For example, this is a Tokina lens made for an APS-C sensor camera. It's a very good lens that can be found not very expensive on the market, and it's got a focal range of 11 to 16 millimeters. What that means that even although this lens is made for an APS-C sensor, these numbers you can see still refers to a full frame camera. They don't refer to any APS-C. So an 11 that you see here will be a 17.6. Going up to the 16 millimeters Can you see here, there will be a 25.6 millimeter effective field of view that you will have on a full frame camera. So when you put this lens at 15 millimeters over here, you got the equivalent of a 24 millimeter of a very expensive full frame lens. And another thing that is not very well explained is that although this is a fixed full aperture of 2.8, so as you change the focal length, the aperture stays the same. Even the number, the f2.8, has to be multiplied by the crop factor. So an f2.8, it will become a 4.8. So it's a nearly f5 lens. So it's a quite bright lens, but then from 2.8 that you read, it becomes an f5. So usually they tell you that you have to multiply the crop for the focal distance, but you have to consider you have to multiply also the aperture by the crop factor.
However, for the price you pay for this Tokina 1116, you get a fantastic piece of glass. It's a very heavy lens, very well built. It's quite heavy, so it really competes to the full frame professional level lenses that you pay thousands. Very beautiful glass. This is a fantastic lens for landscapes. You know, it's very wide. So 11 is 17.6. Is very wide. The professional camera usually they start 24 to 105. So this one you can get even wider. You can get to 17.6, and it doesn't do too much distortion. So not like, for example, when you use the wide angle in the GoPro and you see all the trees, all the buildings. This one doesn't do too much, but then when you import into the computer, into programs such as Lightroom, for example, you can straighten up. As soon as you put a correction profile of the lens, you straighten up the buildings and the trees. They eventually get rounded a little bit, but it doesn't do too much of that. So this is, for example, a very inexpensive way to get a professional looking photograph with an inexpensive lens and camera. So you still go an APS-C sensor. Now this camera, the 70D, is still on the market, and it's still a very good camera. So then they made the 7D, the 80D now, but this one is still fantastic. And also it's got the swivel screen, so the tilted screen, fully articulated, so you can film yourself. It's very good. It's touch screen. And sometimes when you upgrade to a full frame professional camera, you spend 3 times more the money, and you don't get these very useful tools that help your photography. This one, for example, another great piece of glass, 50 millimeters f1.4. So this is a lens that is made for a full frame camera, but you can find very cheap on the market, even on eBay, second hand now for very cheap. 50 millimeters f1.4, it becomes on an APS-C sensor, multiplying everything for 1.6, it will become an 80 millimeters f2.2. So if you have upgraded to a full frame camera, to get the same result, you have to buy the 85 millimeters f1.2, and that costs thousands, and you get this very similar result with this one. So where you get you know, when you do portrait, for example, you have your subject really nice, bright, sharp in focus, and all the background blur and smooth. This produces that kind of photography. So it's a very inexpensive way to have a very professional looking photograph. You can do all sorts of fantastic shots with this one. Very shallow focus. You know, it's great. You know, it's got even the numbers here, so you can really manual focus very smoothly. It's very solidly built lens, and it's very inexpensive. You can do these things only if you have an APS-C sensor camera. As soon as you upgrade to a full frame, everything is very expensive, and it's very heavy as well. It's much heavier. For example, just look at this photograph. My dog Kika. I focus in the eye. It's constantly moving, but you can see how much the background is blurred. Hey, Kika. Everything else is out of focus. So it's not like I make it look like I'm promoting APS-C sensor. I don't mind. I'm not sponsored by anyone. You know, just to help you as a new beginner photographer or an amateur photographer to let you decide. You know, of course, if you got the money, you know, you can buy the most expensive gear and equipment that you can afford. You know, people buy Ferraris and Porsches. You know, so if there is that market, you know, go for it. You know, enjoy it. But you can obtain a very good professional result with much less expensive equipment. You know, you can even, as I said, you can go down to the Micro Four Thirds, which is, they are fantastic cameras. The Olympus, the Panasonic, the GH4, GH5, they're very good for videos. The Olympus is probably a little bit more oriented for photography, and the Panasonic a little bit more oriented for videos, but they all produce very good results. It depends on the lens you put on front. Considering the crop factor, this one, the crop factor is 1.6, so you just have to multiply everything that they tell you. You go and buy a lens and they say, this one is a 50 millimeters f1 to 1.4, but you have to immediately multiply both of the values, the 50 millimeters and the f1.14 to 1.6. Not only just the focal distance, also the aperture has to be multiplied. But you still, you know, when you start from 1.4 and you multiply, you get 2.2. It's still a fantastic, very shallow focus. You can really get that very beautiful blurry background. And so, you know, if you're an amateur, if you're a beginner, you just, you know, just give it a try. Maybe you just photograph for a while, then you realize that you don't like it. You prefer just using your iPhone or your, you know, little small pocket camera or whatever. But if you know, you want to give it a try, I recommend you try with this APS-C sensor, also for the possibility that you can get the amount of lenses that you can find, the glass that you can put on. So okay, anyway, I hope you learned something on this video, and as usual, you're welcome to comment below if I miss to say something, or if you have a question to ask. You're welcome to subscribe to the channel or my Facebook page, Fabulous Outdoor Photography, Instagram @FabulousSport with one S only, Fabulous Sport. Well, all become fabulous because my name Fabrizio, people couldn't say Fabrizio, so they started to call me, hey Fabio, Fabulous, and so Fabulous Sport, that's it. And I share the passion for the outdoors. So in my channel there's a bit of a mishmash, there's a bit of photography, there's a bit of skiing and cycling, they are my main activity, and hiking, test and review, everything for the outdoors. Okay, I hope this will help. See you next time.
Let's go, Kika. Let's go, Kika. Let's go.